Hey everybody, OzoneB here with another roundup video on the latest update, Update 6. I felt the last video was pretty well received, and so I'm going to give it another go. Like the last update, Update 6 rolls out another big batch of changes, two of which are big new features. So if reading the patch notes sounds like less fun than digging out a whole chunk all the way to bedrock, you've come to the right place. The first huge change is that you now have a new way to handle dying in the vault. Currently, if you die in a co-op vault without Afterlife or Beginner's Grace, there's a way to get your stuff back. And that's using the Spirit Extractor, right here next to me, that was introduced a few updates ago. You see, when you die in a co-op vault, your partners can grab your ghost and bring it out with them, and then put it into the Spirit Extractor to get your stuff back. With Update 6, you can now do the same thing for solo vault runs. A ghost will appear on your spawn location that you can pick up and put into the Spirit Extractor. The cost depends on your level and the value of your gear. So in this case, you can see it's going to take 42 vault silver to recover your gear. And there we go. All the gear is back now that I've paid the fee. In order to prevent abusing this mechanic too much, there is also a recovery penalty that gets higher each time you use the extractor. But don't panic too much yet, because by completing a vault objective, you can reduce the penalty. That's not escaping the vault though, that's completing the objective, which isn't easy to do. And the penalty reduction isn't that much, so it will still take several completions to negate the penalty you get just by doing one recovery. Honestly, I feel like that's still a little out of balance, and it's going to get tweaked over the coming patches as people get to play with it more. And if you don't want to get your gear back, you can at least get a crystal. First, unlock it and then hit this recycle button. All your stuff will be lost, but you'll get a crystal back. Sadly, however, this doesn't affect your penalty, and I think this is wrong. But overall, it's a good change. It takes an existing mechanic that works within the lore and makes it more accessible. It's not a replacement for Totems of Undying, but does provide a way for you to recover your gear and makes dying not quite so painful. In his stream, Iskall said that some 80% of all players play on casual mode, and the remaining mostly use Afterlife. I'm not sure how he gets these statistics, but he admits that dying in the vault is out of balance, and this is one way that they're trying to address it. And speaking of Beginner's Grace, Update 5 extended it to level 19, but it was called a bug almost immediately. But it's not a bug, it's a feature! That's right, Beginner's Grace will continue to be given through level 19 now. I'd love to be a fly on the wall behind these conversations because I don't really believe that Iskall wanted Beginner's Grace to last this long. Since Tier 2 mobs start spawning at level 25, there just isn't any time for a player to get used to running vaults without the safety net of Beginner's Grace. So while it seems like it should be a minor configuration change, it sort of feels like a bug that's really nasty to fix, and they just don't want to take the time to do it right now. I don't know, but whatever the reason, it's here to stay. Okay, enough about dying in the vaults. The next huge change is that the Kill a Boss objective has been removed. I guess someone beat that boogeyman so bad, he just decided to hang up the whole Vault Boss gig and retire. Well, it's more like he sent his hordes of evil children to take over instead. The Obelisk objective still exists, but now when you activate an Obelisk, you get some Vault Guardians that have to be killed instead. They're not as strong as a boss, of course, and probably somewhere between an elite and a Vault Fighter. Additionally, some will be bruisers and some will be arbolisks. Do you know what that means? Yeah, I didn't either, but it just means they have crossbows. I wonder why they didn't say that in the first place. The bruisers will have higher hit points and resistances, based around melee combat, and the arbolisks will be slightly weaker, but you'll have to hunt them down like a bow skelly. Given how much bow skellies hurt, I think these may be the more dangerous of the two. Though those bruisers sure hurt a lot. Whew, yeah, they're tough all right. Some obelisks will summon more Vault Guardians than others, so there will be some strategy in deciding when to trigger an obelisk. I think it makes a lot of sense to make sure you clear out any surrounding POIs first. And if you're in co-op, it's an opportunity to get everyone together to take on some of the bigger waves. Iskall said that the obelisk objective is currently more about hunting for the obelisks and less about combat, and that was something he wanted to change. As a result, there will be more obelisks spawned in the vault too, so you won't need to spend so much time hunting for the obelisk and will have enough time for the fights. Also, the heads-up display is revamped to be more like a scavenger hunt for both the obelisk and monolith types. So basically this means that the objective details will always be in the top center part of the screen instead of the lower left like before. Another new feature added to the vault is that there are pylons which can appear in common rooms, like this one behind me. Pylons are meant to grant the player a buff, and this one grants speed for 3 minutes. The patch notes indicate these are meant to replace the consumables that were in the last version, like vault candy bars. A full list of the buffs wasn't provided, but it seems like these are all good and can include things like speed, haste, strength, or more vault time. And who knows what else. I expect this will get some tweaks as we go along in future patches as well. Now these things don't seem to be very common at all. I searched through maybe 20 rooms to find this one, and I'm sure there are a few strategic ways to use it as well, but that'll be up to you and your vaults. Now on to a couple minor changes for the vaults. First, there are 4 new common rooms that can be generated, and these will have POIs focused more heavily on ores than on chests. In this one that I found, there are several POIs that look like little mining shafts. And no, they're not normally this safe. I already took care of all the baddies. But I must say this is another nice change in my book. Previously, if you wanted to find ores, you had to go run around until you found a crystal room or a mine shaft. So these extra POIs are going to help us out get more ores more easily. And it's a common room, so hopefully that will help us all get past those ore crunches just a little more easily. Here's another one of the new ore POI rooms, and this one feels like a little mini mine room. It's got a little mine shaft here and everything. Another minor change is that the God Altars got a texture revamp. I think they look a lot better now. But a more major change is that the Windar God Altar now requires mana instead of vault time. And I like this change quite a bit. Windar always felt disproportionately difficult because vault time is not renewable. Mana, on the other hand, is, and it feels more in line with some of the other Vault God Altar sacrifices. Now moving out of the vaults and into your base, Eternals are getting a bit of a rework in how you create them. Or well, how you create more of them. Currently, you need a cryo chamber for each Eternal, and they, quote, lived, I'm using air quotes here, in the cryo chamber, like old Mephilit here. Now, however, the cryo chamber is only used to create the Eternal. Once you create them, then you put them on an Eternal pedestal. And yep, as expected, these things are kind of expensive, requiring a couple pogs. Whoa. So you just right-click them out of the cryo chamber and they stand on top of your head like a ghost. This is pretty silly, and it's a pretty weird point of view. Now I think I should just, put it on the pedestal, and there he goes. And you can keep putting now more Eternal Souls into the cryo chamber to start working on your next Eternal. Now this is similar to how relics are currently done, where you have to create a separate pedestal, so this feels a bit more consistent. But the explanation in the patch notes is that it's done to facilitate automating the creation of Eternals. And you can do that by putting a hopper straight on into the front of the cryo chamber. I tried a few different orientations, and only the front worked. I kind of don't like that part of it. But we can put the Eternal Souls into the hopper and it will feed them into the cryo chamber automatically, which does save you a bit of time because it took like 100 Eternal Souls in order to make this Eternal right here. And the next one just gets exponentially more expensive from what I understand. In stream, Iskal commented that a person is probably realistically only going to have about 5 Eternals or so because the cost just gets super high as you keep getting more and more. And so they felt the need to automate it. They've also reworked how you get the Thorns Chance and Thorns Damage modifiers as well. Now, Thorns Chance will only exist on armor, and Thorns Damage should only exist on shields. And Thorns Damage has been buffed quite a bit. It basically forces you to use a shield if you want to do a Thorns build. Now, I've never done this, but it doesn't seem like it's a terrible change. It's just different. Next, we have a few minor changes that are still interesting. If you're using research groups, each person should now get the transmogs for any mods that are unlocked. These will be given retroactively too, so you might get a lot of transmogs when you log in for the first time after applying Update 6. Another nice quality of life update is that the tool vise can now be overstacked like the Vault Artisan table. And what I mean by that is in the Vault Artisan station, you can put more than one stack of each of these resources into the slots. Well, with the tool vise, it now works the same way. You can put more than one stack of each of these resource types into these slots. And it could help out your resource management situation a lot. The last update changed how the Keybind for Vein Miner worked. And this update changed it again. It's now a select and use ability as opposed to a select and activate ability. It should make it so that you press and hold a key to be able to use Vein Miner if you have the Keybind set. I'm not sure why they're changing this after so long, but it's definitely going to make me reassess my Keybind setup. One last pretty big change to note here. Update 6 hotfix just came out, and it rather quietly nerfs the Mana Shield skill a lot. The skill used to cost 1 mana to block 1 point of damage, but now it costs 2.5 mana to block 1 point of damage. I think everyone felt like Mana Shield was overpowered, so the nerf was expected, but still, because it's part of a hotfix, I think it might catch some folks off guard. And that's it for this update roundup. I hope you found it useful, and if so, please consider dropping a like or a subscribe. I'm trying to hit 500 subs this year, and the support would mean a lot. Thanks so much, and remember, be excellent to each other. I'm out.